Welcome viewers to the first ever Brothers podcast. Today we are here with the founder of RYKEN, Peter. We're going to discuss a few topics of self-improvement, ask about their brand and find out. I hope that you'll join us sincerely in this journey so that we may find out what is self-improvement, how we go from it and what the brand is all about. Thank you for joining us, Peter.
Thanks, Marco. Super excited to be part of this, and well done with your first episode.
Thank you. I'm really excited. So let's just jump straight into it. So I've read a bit of Marcus Aurelius, started the self-improvement journey myself a while back, doing the training. And as I found myself having three parts of self-improvement. You have the body, which is your fitness, which is always great. You have to be fit, you have to train your body. It's a great place to start the self-improvement journey. Then later on you start to develop your mind, because as the body gets better, the mind starts to clear up. You find that you're a bit more wise, a bit more intelligent, and then as you go along, you gain a bit of emotional control. And then lastly, I would say that the journey ends with excellence. This is like skill-based performance. This is where you learn yourself marketable skills and you start to perform in life, is what I found in my self-improvement journey.
It was actually a big coincidence how everything happened for me, because I was in the state of mind where I think many people find themselves. You've got this fixed mindset where I always saw myself as a shy, introverted, that cliche type of personality. I don't say that anymore, but that was how I saw myself as I grew up, and that really limited my way of thinking. And such a funny thing happened. Look, I went through all of this until I was about, let's say, 25. When I started working, the weirdest thing happened, because one of my colleagues approached me one day with like a network marketing thing, Network 21. What was the Amway? I'm not sure if you've ever heard of the Amway products, but yeah, it's like groceries and stuff, but it's a network marketing thing where you form part of this whole scheme and you sell products, and through that you get a kickback and all of those things, but I'm not going to go into detail of that. But in that whole network, they've got this personal development program, and that was actually what intrigued me, because I went to one of these meetings. It kind of feels like a cult meeting, which it really isn't. I mean, it's really a bunch of nice people that I met there, but that whole thing triggered my self-development journey. It was that opened such a door for me. It was, one of those light bulb moments that went off, and that changed my life completely, where I found out you can actually sort of change who you want to be. This whole thought of you are a specific person it's just a thought, basically. So, yeah, long answer, but that's where my self-improvement journey actually came from.
Oh, that's great. We all have a point in our lives where we decide this is the moment. Now, as I said just now, we all go through a bit of a crucible. So I have a quote here for you from Confucius, which says, "To put the world in order, we must first put the nation in order." Now, to put the nation in order, we must first put the family in order. Now, to put the family in order, we must first cultivate our personal life. We must first set our hearts right, which is Confucius.
Pain, the amount of pain that I experienced that led to a point where it's like, either I'm going to have to change something or I'm going to die from the pain that I'm experiencing. So, you know what? I think that is also one of the biggest, it was my biggest challenge. It is where the pain is bearable, then you can live with that. It's actually, I feel good for someone where the pain becomes unbearable, because when you reach that point, it forces you to start doing something different. And that is the point that was the tipping point for me, where it was just, I just couldn't continue living like that. And I knew I had to do something. I'm actually listening to an audiobook of Tony Robbins at the moment, and one of the things that he says in that audiobook is change your should into a must. You know, most of us think we should do this and we should do that. He makes a joke and he says we should all over ourselves, but we can carry on should doing something for many, many years, but it's only when we turn that into a must, you know, I must do this, when that is the only time when we actually start seeing a difference. When you start taking action, of course.
I think that the turning point for a lot of people is pain. It's the start, as Jordan Peterson once said in one of his lectures, that sometimes you have to let necessity drive you forward. At some point in your life, you're going to have to choose that necessity has to drive you forward. Otherwise, you're going to be complacent for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Look, you don't need something drastic to happen in your life in order to decide to make it better. Not at all. I mean, it's just unfortunately we do much more to avoid pain than to accumulate pleasure. You know, unfortunately, that's just how we are wired. So, but yeah, to answer your question, no, definitely not. You don't need like this dramatic event in your life to make you change something. You can change whatever you want, whenever you want to. So, but it comes down to, you know, is it something that you really want to do? So it's just a choice. It's a decision that you have to make.
Yeah, at the end of the day, a lot of the things that we do goes about choices. There's a whole section about many of the psychology work that I'm doing as well at the moment. Everything goes about a choice. You can at one moment choose, I will be who I am and I'll be myself unapologetically. And the other time, once your world perspective is challenged, once your being is being challenged, you can either choose to stay complacent and be there, or you can choose to change. But the problem is that it always boils down to a choice. And as long as that change isn't driven by fear or pain, you most probably will choose the path of least resistance. And that happens a lot. That happens a lot in today's society, where once you want to change, you're just never driven by necessity. You're never driven by pain. So your choice, your will to change never happens because there's nothing that drives you to that choice.
Yeah. You know what? It makes me think of, I saw this podcast of Sadhguru once where he talks about people's potential, and that's a very exciting thing in my point of view. It's, you know, all of us have, like, I wouldn't say we have a limit to our potential. I don't think so. I think we will never actually see what we are capable of. We can get as close to it as possible, but I mean, it's actually an exciting thought to see how close to your maximum you can get, if you get what I'm saying. And that is a lifelong journey. There's no end to it. So every day you just do a small thing to get yourself closer to, you know, it sounds so cliche, but that best version of yourself, which you're never going to attain. But it's a nice thing to do. And it's like you say, what's the alternative? Sit and do nothing, and you know, then you actually go backwards. If you don't work on yourself, you deteriorate. It's like a muscle that you don't use. It doesn't stay the same. It gets weaker.
Yeah.
So it's an exciting thought to know that, you know, you can always improve yourself. But so that's also a nice motivating thought, if you ask me.
I know that there's a few fears that stems from main fears, and one of our main fears is the fear of our own potential. And I think that's why a lot of people then strive to achieve that potential. It's because you start to fear what you're capable of. And once you know what you're capable of, you're scared that you won't reach that potential. You're scared that you won't be what you're capable of being. And that's what keeps a lot of people back in today's society, today's world, a lot of the newer generation as well. Since we know we're capable of so much, look what we reached in the last 100 years. We went to the moon, we developed nuclear energy, everything that, all the technology that we developed, phones in the last 20 years, TVs, all of our modern technology is developed mostly within the last 100 years. And if you think about that and you know what the humans can achieve, you start to fear your own capability because you know you're capable of that as well. You're capable of being a creator, but you're scared of failing. You're scared of not being able to achieve that potential of yours.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Just it's something that I incidentally thought about recently, but obviously our environment also determines our fears, because it's sort of the expectation of everyone around us and sort of the general behavior of all of our peers and family and all of these. They determine to a large extent what we do and what we don't do. It's very difficult for people to separate yourself from a specific group. That is, it's difficult. So to start doing something when it's like, what's that dude busy doing, busy with at the moment? To put yourself in the spotlight, it's very, very uncomfortable. And that is also something that, that sort of, I'm going to say, I don't like that whole crowd mentality thing where the community tries to pull you back, but I think subconsciously that is actually something that does happen. But just to add to what you said now, it's obviously that fear of, I can do all of this, but I have to do things different from everyone else around me, and in this group, this behavior is not acceptable. So I think that fear of rejection is also a massive thing. It's, I fear failing, and then I lose the love and respect of all of these people, and then I'm rejected from the group, and then I'm going to die, which is, all of that is just subconscious. I mean, it's not true, but that is things that really hold people back.
But I think that fear is also perpetuated within our own survivability. I mean, we as humans, at the very, very early stages of our development, we had to fit in. We had to have had numbers to survive in the wild. But now we're in such a point in society, numbers aren't needed anymore. But we still have that biological drive to have a social life. Because we're social beings, it's something we can't avoid nor deny. It's something we used for survivability. It's something that we are. So as soon, and that's, I think this is one of the cons of self-development, but it also has a pro later on, is that you're suffering now, but you gain in the future. So as soon as you start this journey, maybe you have friends and you go drinking every weekend. And as soon as you start this journey, you can only go out once every month, once every 2 months, because you're busy, you're trying to develop yourself. And every second weekend or every passing weekend after is, oh, look who's not drinking again. Look who's sitting at the house. Look who's doing nothing again. Look who's not coming out with us. You start to lose your own social friends, your own social group. And I think that loss of that group sometimes feel like it's a loss of ourselves. But that's the thing about self-improvement, is you're chipping away at pieces of yourself. You have to leave some stuff behind to gain something new. And it's the same with the social group. You're going to lose some social groups, lose some social friends, but at the end of the day, I think you gain better social groups as time passes on. People that have the same mindset as you, who want to move forward and not stay at that same place.
Yeah, no, yes, that's very well said. I mean, there's comfort in, in your specific group. There's comfort in belonging to something, but that's very short term. The long term, let's say if it's not necessarily where you want to be in a few years, it's great for the moment. Yes, you fit in, but where you're going to be in 15 years from now, then it's like those guys who make you feel comfortable at the moment are not going to care about you then. Then it's every man for himself. And so rather face the discomfort and remove yourself from a group where it's not very beneficial for you to be part of. So, yeah. Someone that has played a big role in my life is Tom Bilyeu from Impact Theory. He's got some super awesome content. Yes, but plenty of guys, Marco. I like Robin Sharma. Old school guys like Stephen Covey played a big role in my life. Okay, but you're talking more about like current guys. So, shucks, Mel Robbins for the ladies. 5-second rule. Tony Robbins. I suspected they were related, but I was wrong. There's no relation between the two of them. Yes, there's actually so many of them. Yeah, you mentioned Chris Williamson, I think before we started. Shucks, what's that? 10x guy, Grant Cardone. Yes, there's many of them. So that's a great thing. There's so much content, free content out there that you can just consume, and which will help you.
Not just this podcast, but there's many out there, especially with the Joe Rogan Experience and Chris Williamson's podcast, as Peter said. There's a lot of things that you can consume to start out your journey of self-improvement. I know when I started out, the first thing that screamed self-improvement was Jim Rohn, because his whole philosophy has a bit of stoicism, but it has a lot of improving yourself. You'll hear him talk about his mentor Earl Shoaff, and he talks about a story where he goes to Earl Shoaff and he says, look how, he shows him the paycheck and he says, look what they're paying me. And he says, but isn't there people in that company that get paid a lot? And he says, yeah, but this is not enough for me. And he said, no, they're not paying you enough. He said, they're paying the other people. That's just what they're paying you.
Exactly.
And that was a moment where you realized, oh yeah, no, maybe if I improved my own position in the company, I would get more. You would get paid more. So don't quote me on that. That's his own story to tell. But around about in that direction is that he realized that Earl Shoaff told him, that's just what they pay you. And I talked to one of my friends and told him the story, and he said, wow, that's such a bad thing to say to somebody. How could you just tell them that's just what they pay you? That's the mentality that we have today. Nobody may hurt us, nobody may tell us our position is bad, but as soon as somebody says to you, you know what, there's people that get paid in your company quite a lot, it's just you that doesn't get paid that well. It may, have you considered that it's maybe your position, it's maybe your status within that company?
Yeah.
And that is why I think Jim Rohn is a great place to start, because his whole philosophy goes around financial as well as improve yourself, learn yourself marketable skills.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I must say I've listened to hours and hours and hours of Jim Rohn. Yes, I love him. He was actually Tony Robbins' mentor as well, incidentally. And it's very strange how the world works. I met a guy in Centurion just a few months ago, an Afrikaans businessman there. He actually met Jim Rohn in person. So it's so cool. Obviously, unfortunately, he has passed away, but just to backtrack a bit to what you mentioned now about you get paid for who you are. I mean, that whole thing, and I completely agree with Jim Rohn. He talks about the value, the value that you add. You get paid for your value. I mean, but he differentiates between the value that we have as, a father or brother or a friend and all of those things, a family member. Yes, there's lots of value in that. But unfortunately, in the marketplace, you get paid for the value that you bring to the marketplace. So it's very simple. It's so, I mean, you can get cross at the whole system, but it's not going to change. I mean, I can swear at the sun every morning when it comes up, but it's going to continue doing the same thing. My emotions around that's not going to change anything. So it's just, but the simple thing is, if you want to earn more, if you want your boss to give you more money, just bring more value to the business. It's as simple as that. Educate yourself more, acquire a skill that they need. Or if that doesn't work, go and find someone else who appreciates your value, or go and add value to someone else. That's really as simple as it is.
Sometimes you get value from very strange places. I read on Reddit one day, what this guy said made so much sense, but he was saying it in a jokingly manner, typed it up himself, and he said, you know what, these days I'm just catering to rich people because they pay better. And then I thought that's such a stupid thing to say, but it's a great philosophy if you think about it. If you solve problems for people that have money, you'll be rich. You'll make money. And that's the thing. You have to learn yourself marketable skills. And that's why I love Jim Rohn, is he's straightforward about it. He always tells you the way to be more, the way to get paid more, is to do more and become more. You're not going to overnight. And this is the thing that social media portrayed at the very early stages, people becoming millionaires overnight, getting paid 10 times more overnight, but they were special occasions. if you want to get there, you're most probably going to have to become more of an asset to whatever you're doing. Let's say you're doing construction. If you're a great construction worker, then learn the management skills of construction. Then you're more of an asset to your own construction company and you get moved up. Maybe even after you learn all the things that you could about construction, you start your own company because you know how it works. That's how you move up in the world, is you have to become more, work more, be more.
100%. And the nice thing is, most people don't do that. Most people complain and blame others about where they are and what they're not getting and all of the challenges that they're facing. 95% of people don't do anything. So that's the nice thing. If you are one of those who actually decide to take matters into your own hands, the chances of success, it's very, very good.
But that's why David Goggins says it's easy to be great nowadays, because everybody's weak. Nobody wants to do what needs to be done to become great. Nobody chases after greatness because it's a hard path to walk. It's a barren road with very few people and you'll be very lonely, but you'll achieve it because a very small part of our population follows that path. You'll be able to succeed because nobody else does it. Most people would rather complain about their situation than do something about it. So as soon as you start to do something about it, you're already ahead of the curve.
Yeah. This is a very controversial thought that I'm having right now, but it makes me think of that what's that Sports Illustrated swimwear edition that they have every year. I think, was it last year or the year before that, where they had the cover model was like a very curvy lady. I want to be very diplomatic now at the moment.
Yeah.
But not your stereotypical model. It's more like a plus size.
Plus size model, yeah.
And I must be honest, I'm like, when it's too hard to get yourself to fit into a specific category, just change the category. If you get what I'm saying. It's too hard to achieve this, so let's just change the rules. It's like, you don't have to be disciplined and work on yourself to become this symbol of something that people can strive to. No, let's rather just it's fine as it is. It's weird. It's like we're not allowed to promote hard work anymore. You actually get sort of, it's very strange, the sort of kickback there is against, hard work.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think the thing is, woke media has become such a part of social media that it's portrayed everywhere. What companies, especially fitness brands, don't understand when they include plus size model is you're catering to a fitness audience. A fit person very rarely is plus size. Let's take Eddie Hall. He's a strong man, the strongest man on, this is going a stretch maybe, but he's the strongest man on earth. And he's quite a big guy, but that's fitness. But it's not that he's fat, it's the way his muscles developed in order to gain strength. But as a fitness brand, you can't put a plus size model that doesn't have those muscles, for instance, that Eddie Hall has. If it's just a normal plus size model, you're not catering to your own people. You're trying to include other people in a brand that you're portraying your own brand's reason for being. Your being a fitness brand is that you're catering to people that love being fit, that love doing the hard work. And now you're saying to those people, no, but it's fine to be fat sometimes. Fat is a very hard word and we might get a bit of backlash, but that is what it is. Sometimes now you're saying to the fitness people that love being fit, that goes out into that hard work, no, it's fine being big. It's you're losing your own audience in that way.
Yeah. And me and my wife, we've had this sort of debate a few times, but where she would say, but some people, they can't lose weight. And I'm like, this is, again, very controversial. But then I tell her, she's very into like war and history and all of those things. And I tell her, that in the Second World War, have you ever seen any of like those photos of Jews in the concentration camps? Have you ever seen a fat Jew there? Do you not think some of them had sort of like a eating disorder? Like an excuse for why they can't lose weight? every single person on that photo is like bone thin. It's point is just, it's food that makes you fat, nothing else. I mean, that's just the fact of the matter. We can BS ourselves with all kinds of other things. It's just lack of discipline and the wrong food. If we're talking about the weight thing, I mean, we're just obviously using this as a, sort of a comparison.
To have a sub-branch to what you just said, Viktor Frankl, very well-known psychologist, he was a Jew within one of the concentration camps. And this, I think, in today's podcast, if we could relay something, it's that purpose drives self-improvement. We'll get to that later in the podcast as well, but Viktor Frankl said that we find purpose and meaning in suffering. His mother, I think his father and brother was all killed within the concentration camps, if I'm not mistaken. And he got out of it the other side, and people asked him, how are you moving forward? How are you just bearing that weight? And he said that within the concentration camp, he had to do something, is that he had to find purpose in that suffering. And that's where I think most of the quotes come that says, find purpose in your suffering. That's how you move forward. Yet again, letting necessity drive you to become better.
Yeah. Yeah, because he made a powerful statement. I know Stephen Covey also refers to that in his 7 Habits book, where Viktor Frankl talks about there's a stimulus, between stimulus and response there's a space, and in that space is where we have a choice. I think, and if we're not aware of that, we act on our impulses, and impulse is a very dangerous thing to, that gets you into prison.
Yeah, a lot of times you make the wrong choice.
Yes, so I'm very lucky to have avoided that a few times in my life, but in any case, impulse is a dangerous place to be. So you want to make that space as big as possible, consider the few alternatives, and then try and make the best selection from those different options that you have. And just incidentally on him as well, I mean, it's like you mentioned now, something that he also says is, it's not, you don't ask life, what is my purpose?
Yeah.
It's the other way around. Life asks you, what is your purpose for your being? So, what an awesome book.
Yeah, Viktor Frankl, very important pillar in the community of psychology, as well as for every individual striving to learn something new about themselves, is that he truly went through, I think my mother always said this, if we all had to throw our lots into a bundle, we all had to stand there, you'd quickly take your lot and run, because there's people that go through much worse things than you. And that's why Viktor Frankl said that you have to find purpose in your suffering. That's the only way you're going to get through the other side still a human being, is understanding that purpose had meaning, that suffering had meaning. So that's the only way you get to the other side, is knowing, my suffering wasn't useless, it wasn't just pointless. It either improved me or improved my situation. And that's why you need to find some purpose in the suffering.
I must say an empowering thought when, considering challenges that we face is, it's obviously not pleasant while you're going through it. When you're younger, you'll have a bunch of relationship disappointments. As you get older, you'll have professional disappointments, etc., etc. You're going to have to face death and all of these different things. But, I mean, every one of those obstacles you survive and you get through and you make peace with, later on, which you will, that puts you in a place where you can help someone else. Someone is going to come across your path with a problem like that, and you're going to say to them, dude, don't worry, I've been through this, everything will be fine, you're experiencing X, Y, Z at the moment, and this is what will happen in the future. So I know it sucks, but everything will be fine in the end. So
talking about finding purpose in your suffering, it comes a lot down to me for stoicism. Have you ever heard of stoicism? So stoicism, a lot of people think that stoics don't have emotions, which is not true. Just for the viewers now, this is not true. Stoics have emotions, they're still human beings, but they're great at emotional control. So
I think it's basically the most important thing there is. Because if you can control your emotions, you can control your own being 100%. If we can choose, if we can just refer back to, it's a ridiculous subject to hammer on, but just something many people can relate with, me, myself included, is let's take food again, you know? So I'm struggling with my weight. Why? Because I have this urge for unhealthy things. Why? Because when I eat it, it makes me feel good. All of that is an emotion. I feel happy. Okay, so you chase after Jordan Peterson says, don't do what is expedient, do what is meaningful. So avoid the expediency. But again, just to use that as an example, if we just have proper emotional management, which is super difficult, if we can apply that to the different areas in our life, everything will be great. I spoke to my wife the other day, and we can have arguments like, I told her these things are escalating. One of us are going to get arrested one of these days because of how these arguments are going. So, and just to use that as an example, I mean, that is also emotional management. Because she will say things that trigger me so bad. And it's like, dude, you have to get control over yourself. And sometimes, but she's very good at that. And I actually love her for that, because that really tests me. And I've gotten to a place where, I can carry on for 2 months, and it's like, okay, I've got this. You're not going to get me. You're not going to get me this time. And then one day especially when you're tired, it's like, yes. Then, I mean, there's a door down the hall that has a bit of I've done ridiculous things like that. It's like, what did this poor door do to me? But just to your point, emotional management is the answer to everything. It'll help you at work with all of those difficult colleagues that bother you all of the time. When you have to sit and study, when you're bored, emotional management, that's the answer to everything. It's such a good thing to work at. And that is where actually training and that teaches you, when you get up in the morning, get up before you want to get up, because we have to. If we don't test ourselves with these things, life will test you, and then you're not going to be ready. You're going to make mistakes. So we must put ourselves in these uncomfortable situations to build our emotional resilience. Like I say, get up before you want to. Go for a run because you don't want to. That's the important thing. People talk about, cold showers is all over the place, jumping into, covering yourself with ice and wrestling an ice bear and all of these different things. It all comes down to doing something that you don't want to do. It's like, oh, this is going to suck. Put the tap open, and then you stand there and it's like, oh, I don't want to do this. But the fact that you do it is great. Yeah. And it's weird. It will make you feel good. It will make you feel good in that moment.
See, this is what I'm doing in my course. My course, for those who don't know, I'm doing a course that I'm going to post on Udemy. And it goes about gaining emotional control through a few stoic practices. Now, it's not only stoic practices. There's a few things that you have to do. And one of the things that I handle or hammer on is positive psychology. And within that, I have a theory that I've explained, which is self-determination theory. It's a theory of self-motivation. And the funny thing is, for that activity, you have to do something for that week, every day that sucks, that you really don't want to do. David Goggins says it also a lot. Do something every day that sucks, that you really just don't want to do. And the reason being is psychology explains it great. So within the theory, you have like stages. You have a motivation, which is just you going through the motions. You really just don't want to do it. You have to do it. That's necessity driving. Then you get external motivation. You go through a lot of different stages. You're doing it because you'll get rewarded or punished for doing or not doing something. And then later on, it gets a bit more internalized. Yeah, but I feel guilty. Well, my self-esteem would take a hit if I did bad in this or I did good in this. And then as you progress along the stages, you later fully internalize the thing that you once hated. You learn to love what you hated through that theory. And it was proven through a lot of studies, with a lot of people included in those studies, where they gave them something that really sucked every day. But as they did it over a long period of time, they became to love the very thing that they hated.
Yes, yeah, that's interesting.
I have like a few examples. I can remember, I hate jogging. Really I do, but it's because my knee is broken and I always make excuse somewhere along the line. I just hate jogging. But I forced myself every day, go jogging, go jogging, go jogging, go jogging. And then I would do it until I puked. I overdid it a bit, but
sure,
just to get me into that motion. But it sucked so bad. Eventually I quit. Recently I started again, but this time I said to myself, I really don't want to do it, but I'm going to try. I'm going to listen. There's this bodybuilder that has very controversial things that he says in the bodybuilding community. Like, for instance, if you pick up weights, hold it and control the negative, not the positive. He said that jogging, you should jog at such a pace that you can have a comfortable conversation without getting so out of breath that you have to stop. And so I tried it. I jogged at that pace, and I suddenly went from the park that I'm jogging at is 2 kilometers if you go two times around the park. I suddenly went from 2 kilometers to 10. Just jogging at a pace where I could talk comfortably with myself or with anybody. Usually because I have nobody who jogs with me, I jog and I look like a crazy person, just jogging. You know what, this is a bit hard today, but I'm enjoying this. And the people in the park just looking at me, what is this man doing? He's talking to himself. But at the end of the day, that worked. And now I love jogging. I enjoy jogging because I found a way to internalize, or not, rather, I had an external reason to do it, and then later on I internalized jogging, which I really hated. So you could really learn to love what you hate.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. To what you mentioned now, if I consider running, something that I struggle to relate with other people is because I love running. I would run the whole day if I could. So I absolutely love it. So I like to combine activities. I use that time to, I would listen to an audiobook. So it's actually cool because now you sort of study while you're doing something that you like, and the two really complements each other. Point is just if we can get something that we like doing and you combine it with something that might be a little bit less, enjoyable for you, that's a way you can actually sort of get the best of both worlds, if I could put it that way. You're going to have to be creative to a certain extent, but that's a strategy that really works for me.
To move on now to fitness, I heard of RYKEN before I started my self-improvement journey. And these days, now that I'm on your Instagram and following, I see you get up before 5, then you have your 30 squats or 50 squats even before 5, and then you go jogging or running.
Definitely. I mean, to be honest, Marku, so the past few months I've struggled with injuries, so I couldn't really run as I wanted to. I couldn't cycle I couldn't really do anything. And I must tell you, it has been very challenging few months because I don't have that dopamine, I don't have that endorphins, those natural chemicals that your body discretes, and it really gives me an idea of what people go through when they're not exercising. And I can tell you it's going to change your life night and day. It's not pleasant, just sitting and trying to manage your life. Like I say, I haven't really I've never dove too deep in why exercise makes you feel so good and all of that.
Yeah.
All I know, it does. Lots of people says it, and I've tested it for a few years now, for like 30 plus years, and I found it to be true. So it's something that I can really promote. The thing is, if you obviously if you look better, you feel more confident. But that's just, it's one of the things, that's something that many people mention. But, going back to the whole emotional thing and all of that, the discipline that it'll give you, that's actually the biggest benefit from everything, where you get yourself to stick to a certain thing. There's some people in my life that I know they've been struggling with this for years. They just cannot get themselves to stick to a discipline. And what that happens is you see yourself as a failure. You feel disappointed all of the time. You try and fail all over again. This whole failure loop just carries on all of the time. It's just like a pattern that you are in. So the flip side of it is also obviously not good. But to answer your question, the biggest, like I say, your brain is going to release dopamine. So the other thing that I know is heroin contains or makes your body release dopamine. That is how much we actually want that chemical. A free way to get that is to exercise. One of the best ways to do that is to do resistance training, EI, weight training. Go to the gym and lift something heavy. It's as simple as that. You are guaranteed going to feel better. But like intensity training for 20 minutes, you don't have to spend 3 hours in the gym, not at all. 20 minutes flat out with a few heavy things. Lift your girlfriend or your wife, do bench presses on a bed, whatever. Those type of things, it's going to make you feel good. 100%.
Now, RYKEN, thank you for the shed, by the way.
You're welcome.
I have to ask.
It's 100% more mentality. RYKEN it's actually supposed to present self-improvement. I've never been in media as I grew up. I studied law, so getting into this whole, because it's sort of art, and I had to teach myself everything, so it's really I'm winging it as I go on. Excuse the pun for the eagle there on your shirt, but no, it's supposed to present personal development. It's just difficult to make, as you read a book, seem very intense. So although every now and then I post a picture of that, I haven't done that in a while, but no, it's actually an overall mentality, just positive mentality, Kaizen, just work on something every day, small things, keep on improving yourself.
That's wonderful, that's wonderful. Now, with fitness and the mentality of RYKEN,
I would say resilience, definitely resilience, sticking through hard times, but that's resilience. Again, building discipline. If I can give you a practical example, 2 big events that I've done in my life is the Cape Epic mountain bike race. It's like an 8-day mountain bike race there in the Cape, and it's quite challenging. It's not, most of the time it's not the best weather conditions, and it's a lot of climbing. You're on your bike like 5 to 6, 7 hours a day for 7 days, and one day is just a prologue, which is a bit shorter, but that's very hard. So especially, that's the one thing, it's a race itself, but the training into that, you spend let's say 15 to 20 hours a week on your bike, sitting alone in your room on your indoor trainer while, no one's applauding you, no one's giving you a high five or anything. It's dark when you start, and when you get off, it's your girlfriend's angry at you because you're spending so much time on your bike. So I remember actually when I trained for my first one in 2014, I stayed in the Lowveld in White River, and I worked in Nelspruit, and that's about 25 k's from each other, and I took my bike to work and rode back again after work again, but I took a long road going back, so I would get home at 7 at night with my headlamp, because the training is actually where the biggest benefit comes in, because the week of the race is one thing, but the 6 to 10 months training, that's actually where you build the discipline. Other big event that I've done is the Ironman. Look, I'm talking about things that hundreds of thousands of people have done, but I mean, many also haven't. The Ironman, I entered for the Ironman race in 2015, and I remember when first I heard of the distances, I thought it was freaking impossible. You had to swim 3.8 kilometers.
Sure.
Yeah, then you ride 180 on your bike, and then you run 42 kilometers after that. So when I first heard that, I was like, that cannot be true. And they said it is true, and they're like, I want to do that. But so I entered the race, and I've never swam in my life. And that was about 6 months before the race. So I got into the pool at Virgin Active, also in Nelspruit, swam 20 meters, and I was like tired. Then I got really worried. I'm like, how the hell am I going to swim 3.8 kilometers in the ocean? But I just kept going at that. And yeah, I must say one of the most memorable memories of my entire life is, I remember I took one stroke it's actually in PE where the Ironman is, while I was swimming in the event. And I watched at the shoreline. It was so far away at the coast. You could see the hotels and stuff there over not the horizon, but in the coast. It was such an incredible feeling in that moment. It just struck me, yes, a few months ago I couldn't swim, like literally, I couldn't swim 20 meters. Now I'm in the middle of the ocean, a shark would bite off my leg. And you're watching at the buildings over there. It's such a, I don't know, it's such a weird and awesome experience to find yourself swimming in the middle of the freaking ocean. It's just, so the training is besides the mental, benefits from that, it has put me in places and experiences that was so great.
Sure, that's wonderful. And once you finished these races, how did you feel afterwards?
Sore.
I can think.
So, very sore, I must say. The long mountain bike stuff, your butt really hurts afterwards, and you've got like sore wrists, but I know that's not what you're talking about. I mean, no, it's obviously a great sense of accomplishment, but I think it's weird. It diminishes very quickly. It's sort of, okay, now you've achieved this, and then you start looking for something else to do.
What's the next thing?
Exactly.
What's the bigger thing now?
So, you always look for the next adventure, but isn't that the nice thing about it? I mean, that's something that that's what life is all about, man. It's, chase the one adventure after the other. It's not like this big thing and now I've done it and then I go and sit in the corner and wait to die. No, it's you do something, you learn from it, you can apply. It's weird. You learn things from strange activities that you can apply in your family life, in your freaking work life, in personal life, which is, I suppose, also your family life. But you learn things from the weirdest experiences, and all of that actually forms part of your bigger life experience, and part of the wisdom that you build at the end of the day. So,
would you say that fitness built confidence for you?
Yes. No, definitely. I mean, especially those hard events. It's like, you go through times when it's like, I cannot carry on. It's like, dude, just hang in there for a few more minutes. And I don't know why our body works like that, but you get to a point where you feel you absolutely cannot go on. And then all of a sudden you get like a second wind, and it's like, you feel so fresh all of a sudden again. And then you feel like you want to go for the win. And then, it's these, ups and downs that you just go through all of the time. So definitely, resilience and confidence, most definitely.
I have a quote, Jen. This was said all over the internet for a while. It says, and it's a quote from Alex Hormozi. He says, "You don't become confident by shouting affirmations in the mirror. but by having a stack of undeniable proof that you are who you say you are. Outwork your self-doubt. Now, it's a quote that helped me, and it's ironically from the Modern Wisdom podcast from Chris Williamson, where he said that's the first time I encountered it. That's when I really started. I was training for maybe 3-4 months, but it wasn't intense training. I could have put in a bit more. And that's where I realized if I want to become confident, because I was a really shy guy, there was a lot of things in my life that I went through that I never listened to my crucible. I never listened to my pain. I ignored it. So as soon as now I needed to play catch up, because I was lazy for a long time. I was stagnant, so I'm behind. I have to catch up. I'm below everyone. Everyone is here. I'm here because I was stagnant. I didn't improve myself. Now I'm playing catch up, and this is where I realized I can build confidence. As I was getting bigger, as I was gaining muscle, as I was getting thinner, I realized, wow, I'm getting more confident. As I see the results in the mirror, I'm getting more confident. And then I realized, but it's because I'm gaining a stack of proof that I am who I say I am. It's easy to say, but I'm a fit person, but you never do anything to become fit. It's easy to say I'm strong, but you never work out and see exactly how strong you are. Can you improve that strength? So that's what's nice about training, is I realized that it could build confidence. Now, I have another quote that describes benefits of fitness as well. And it's from Seneca, and it says, we treat the body rigorously so that it may not disobey the mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's a very big correlation between the body and mind. You are basically, how you treat your body is going to play a major effect on how you're going to feel in your head. I mean, I cannot overestimate that statement. It goes without saying, again, how you eat. If you eat unhealthy, you're going to feel crap. If you eat healthy, you're going to feel good. If you are unfit, if your muscles are weak and all of that, you're going to feel weak. You're not going to have any confidence. So no, there's 100%. It's one thing for me. But you know what, Marco? I don't think we should actually distinguish, but it's the same entity. Body and the mind it's actually one thing. If you ask me, you can't distinguish the two.
You see, I asked the question how I asked it is because today there's a big distinguishment between the body and the mind, especially with woke media. If being unfit is fine, that means you at least have to have the brains. My mother always said, if you're not beautiful, you have to be smart. If you're ugly, you have to be smart, and if you're not smart, you at least have to be beautiful. That's her saying always, and I always laughed at it, but it's true. If you don't have the other, then you need one. You can't have one without the other, but you also don't want to have neither. So that's where I made the distinction, is that there's a distinction between your body and your mind, and I found it that with the self-determination theory, as we say, doing something that sucks, your mind is your biggest limiter. Your body, and it was said, I think it was said by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, he said, your body can handle anything. It's your mind that you need to convince. And that's where that distinction came from, for me at least, is, as you said, while you're doing in a competition, there's a point where you feel, I just can't continue anymore. I gave my everything, and then you get your second wind, as if your body just pulled it out from nowhere. And that's where I say, do you sometimes distinguish that I have to train my body rigorously to the point of failure, so that my mind may not disobey me, so that I make that distinction and tell my mind, hey, I'm in charge and I'll do what needs to be done.
Like I mentioned previously, especially if you push yourself to the limit, that is where your limit gradually increases. You have to sort of break yourself down a little bit so that you can repair and build stronger. The next time you're able to do a little bit more, and you just build these bricks one day, well, not necessarily one day at a time, but one exercise regimen at a time, and that is just how you carry on. And again, build your resilience, your confidence, all of those different things. And yeah, I must say the following. I mean, beauty and all of that it's a very different sort of concept by itself. And luckily for us, it's very subjective. I mean, I can think one person is like very ugly, and someone else is going to think it's the most beautiful thing they've ever seen. So, and vice versa. I might think someone is very beautiful, and someone else would think, "What? There's something wrong with you. You need glasses." You know? So, yeah, that's a great thing. And I mean, the fact of the matter is, it's just, if we look at the physiology of people, you know, how we look, that's one thing. I mean, we look as nature sort of made us. You know? There's nothing we can do about that. I mean, if you are 180 and if I'm talking about meters, let's say you're 1.8 meters tall, I'm 1.6. That's just, I mean, that's how tall I am. Yeah. You know?
That's the fact of the matter.
Exactly. Then, I mean, I have to accept I'm not going to be the best basketball player there is going to be. Yeah. Because, point is just, we have to work with what we've got. And it is, are you doing the best with what you have? That is the most important thing. That is all that actually matters. You know, society's opinion of you is irrelevant. Is as long as what you have. I mean, look at me. I cannot be in the sun for like 10 minutes. You know, so I'm never gonna be like a catwalk model. I'll blind the people if I take off my shirt. You know, it's a problem. So it's something that it's just one of those things. We can't be the best at everything. I mean, some things we will just have to accept. And point is just, are you doing the best with what you have? And if you do that, you will feel good about yourself. So that we shouldn't use our limitations as excuses for stuff that we can't do. Focus on what we can do. Those things that we can't do, leave it behind and carry on.
Play to your strengths.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I have a study here for you and the viewers that I want to quote you. So in this study of association between cardiorespiratory fitness and the incidence of common mental health disorders, it says, and I quote, several meta-analysis of the population, it's several meta-analysis of the population-based studies. So they take a piece of a population, a large part of it, and then they do the study. It says, and I quote, have found that low physical activity is associated with greater incidence of common mental health disorders. That same study later then concluded, and I quote once more, that low to medium cardiorespiratory fitness levels are associated with greater risk of common mental health disorders than high cardiorespiratory fitness levels.
So yeah, fitness has been part of my life for most of my life, to be honest. I went through a period where I played in a band when I was about 20 years old for 3 years. So during that time, I wasn't really involved in too much. And while I was studying, I also didn't do too much like endurance type of training, but I always, most of the time, went to the gym and did some weightlifting and all of that. But yeah, to answer your question, 100%. It's like let's say you go through a period of anxiety. The moment you get into your exercise routine, it's just all of a sudden everything disappears. You feel great, and that can get you through a whole day again. I think the best thing that we can do, if you can get into a routine where you actually start your day with, again, you don't have to do 6 hours of training. You don't have to do that. You need a half hour, let's say 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening, and that's it. You're going to feel great. If you run around the block as fast as you can for 20 minutes, you're going to feel awesome after that. guaranteed. And if you can do that twice a day, let's say you lift some weights in the evening, again, it's the dopamine and endorphins that your body excretes. That is what makes you feel good. I mean, again, they develop drugs that actually make your body, release those chemicals. I'm not sure if that is even the right word, but we've got the natural ability to do that.
So to get into the topic of your brand now.
So, I considered for a very long time, what do people need to get them to change? And my conclusion was, you need a reason. And I got that from my own experience. I considered a few things, and it was through a process of elimination. It's like, what is the one thing that's left over after you've removed all of those things? I mean, even if you say, I want something, okay, that's a reason, So, I'm open for correction. It's going to be a problem for me, because then I'm going to have to change a lot of stuff. But up until now, my conclusion was, with the right reason, that would get you to make drastic changes in your life.
It kind of reminds me of Simon Sinek that said, find your why.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same as that you're saying. It's, as you said earlier, life is not going to say, you can't ask life, what is your purpose? Life's going to ask you, what is your purpose?
Correct.
And now, for you to find purpose, you need to know what is your reason. So I think it's quite a perfect slogan, if you ask me.
For me, it was, so I think most people, most people, I can't talk on behalf of everyone, but your personal experience will obviously determine, your own journey and what you regard as important for you and for other people. And I think the biggest motivating factor for most people is you overcoming your challenges, and that excites you, and you feel like, I want to help other people overcome these challenges as well.
Yeah.
I've seen that many times. Many people talk about that. There's some people, in my life, in my personal life, that has gone through the same journey, and that is what I went through. Exactly the same thing. It was just like, shucks, all of these, why am I struggling with insecurities? That was a big problem for me. You mentioned anxiety. It's something that I struggled with a lot, and all of these different things. So to find sort of an answer to those things, that was my whole motivating factor. It was that what I mentioned earlier. It actually comes down to Carol Dweck's Mindset, that book of hers, that I was convinced that I was a specific person, and Marco, I cannot explain to you that relief that I experienced when I realized it is just a thought. It's not, it is just a thought in my mind. You can change yourself, and I wish more people could realize that. We stick to this whole thing of things are the way they are. No, they're not. It's the way we perceive them. We can perceive them differently. So that was my whole motivating thing. That is the message I want to get through to people is, if you have, again, if you have the right reason, you can definitely start changing things for yourself.
Yeah, no, definitely. And it kind of reminds me as well from Marcus Aurelius that he has a quote in and it's not a quote, it's something that he says in his book. He says, "Today I discarded anxiety. Not that I discarded it, rather that I realized it's the perception of the situation. So I just discarded my perception." And that was a significant moment for me as well, is that as soon as you realize that a lot of negative emotions is just your perception, your analysis, you're making sense of that situation that causes your negative emotions. If you just take a step back, dissociate, and then choose, but you know, this is just my way of seeing it, maybe there's another way, you soon realize that your anxiety, your depression, all of the negative emotion that you could feel start to dissipate as you try to gauge with the larger picture.
100%. Yeah, I think a nice perspective in that regard is, you know, two things is we suffer most in our imagination than in anything else. It's we suffer imagined pains. And if we think about it, it's 99% of the struggles we go through, it's just in our mind.
Yeah.
And another nice thought is, you know, the only reality that we have is the moment we are living in. Now Eckhart Tolle, I'm not sure how you pronounce his surname, but I think it's Tolle. He wrote the book The Power of Now, but he came up with that whole, I'm not sure if he came up with that concept, but as far as I know, of just living in the moment. And in the moment, that's the only place that actually exists. The future exists in our mind, the past is gone. So if you can just get yourself to live in the moment, there's nothing wrong. Nothing can be wrong in the moment, because it's just, I mean, you and I are sitting here. Is there anything to worry about? I mean, you don't know me that well, so you might be concerned slightly.
Yeah.
But point is just, in the moment, we really have got nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
So just focus on where you are. You mentioned Jim Rohn also earlier, and I mean, he used to say, wherever you are, be there.
Yeah.
So
Be in the moment.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean, I suppose this is more on the whole anxiety point, but there's a few things to consider in that regard.
Yeah, no, I have to say that's quite significant. Then yet again, in positive psychology, what I want to add to that is we have something called hedonic and eudaimonic well-being. Sounds the same, but it's quite different. Spelled worlds apart. I struggle to spell it to this day, and I had this course now for 2 years. The thing is, hedonic well-being is feeling good. And there's nothing wrong with it. You have to feel certain emotions. Once you get spouts of joy and happiness and warmth. I know with my partner, sometimes when we just hug, I feel joyous. I feel that warmth, I feel love. And then that's not a bad emotion to have. That's feel-good emotions. You need to experience them. And the same with a negative emotion. Sometimes you feel anger. The best response for anger is delay. Seneca said that. But it's also, you have to experience the in-moment negative emotions as well. That's hedonic wellness. It's those spurts of emotions that come and go. They don't really carry significance unless you have them carry significance. And then you have eudaimonic well-being, which is, I think, a big part of your brand, because eudaimonic well-being is feeling right. It goes about achievement, accomplishment, personal growth, excellence and giftedness. It's about a lot of those components that helps you feel right instead of helping you feel good. And even positive psychology says that you have to chase after things that make you feel right and not after the things that make you feel good. Because only so much feel-good emotions is good for you before it becomes toxic.
Mm-hmm. So, sure. You know what? So, in my point of view, the one thing that really contributes to people's struggles and, you know, depression and all of those things is that if we feel worthless. We don't necessarily say we feel worthless, but we don't feel we've got any purpose. We don't feel there's no point in getting out of bed and all of these different things. It's and I always compare it to, you know, what do we do with things, you know, a tool that you open the closet and it's like, you know, I haven't used this thing in so many years, now I'm going to throw it away. You know, if we don't use something, it loses its value and you discard it. And I think, you know, that is the mindset that we have. And if we don't use ourselves, we discard ourselves subconsciously at the end of the day, you know. And how do you, but people don't, they forget the significance of being a human being on this planet, because everything that we do and every person that we come into contact with leaves, in my opinion, and I humbly think that I'm correct when I say this, leaves a never-ending trail of something. Because if I met you, let's say we bumped into each other in a mall, for instance, and I was rude to you, and I told you, you are such a stupid guy and all of that. That might influence the way that you are feeling throughout the day. It'll influence the way that you interact with your girlfriend. It will make her upset. She cries and drives home too fast. She's upset. Doesn't look properly. Freaking runs over a stop street, etc., etc. I'm dramatizing this whole thing, but that is just the one incident leading to the other. And let's change it a bit, and I say, Yessie dude, I saw your stuff the other day on social media. It was freaking brilliant. I've got this guy that I should connect you with, and you get a major deal from that whole thing, and you buy her a big ring and she's happy, and everyone's it's great. There's just white doves flying all over the place and everyone's happy. So point is just everything that we do affects everything. There's a never-ending cycle of that one moment where we decide how we interact with other human beings. That's the only thing that's important. And if I am not at my best, I cannot give my best to society. So every interaction that I have is, do I actually make the world a better place because I am here? Because that's the only thing that matters at the end of the day, Michael. Because we think we have all the time in the world. We don't. We've got this speck. I mean, we have forgotten about our grandfather's father. We've got no idea who that is. And his life was so important to him, like all of our lives are for us. But it's so short. The one thing that we do forget is we play a never-ending role in the evolution of humanity. And it's, do we have a positive effect? Do we have actually an effect where humanity or the society becomes better, more compassionate towards each other? What is the example that I set to you as a new friend of mine? What is what's the example that you set? But it's what we do at the end of the day. So there's definitely worth in getting out of the bed, because if you are staying in bed, you are telling someone else it's fine to stay in bed when things are difficult. That is, and I understand people go through very, very difficult things, but the way you deal with that is so freaking important, because you set an example and a precedent for other people who look up to you, and they are like, when things are difficult, you just become depressed and you complain and you drink pills. And so that is where we have the responsibility on ourselves to respond in such a way that we add value to society, because that's all we actually do at the end of the day. That's all that is left of all of these crazy things that we do every day and all of these weird thoughts that we have. Only significant thing is how we treat each other. That's all that matters.
And then people like us who strive for self-improvement, self-betterment and purpose, we sometimes are a lot unrelatable, because we don't talk a lot about our personal lives, because we're quite passionate over purpose and the reason why we do things. And that is why in my course I advise people that as soon as you find purpose, and it is, you're going to be passionate about your purpose. That I am as well when I'm doing the podcasts and the doing the coursework. I'm quite passionate. I like to talk about it a lot, and it's always been like that. What the heart is full of, the mouth will talk about. I think it was said so in the Bible as well, is that what your heart is full of, you will start to talk about. And so at the end of the day, you don't talk a lot about your personal life because you're so passionate about your purpose and the way you're living. Do you have moments, like I advise my students, where it's good to have a purpose and strive after it? This week, go out and do something that's hard every day. Find a purpose, find a meaning, and strive to achieve it. But then when a friend comes through the week and can we have a drink? Just go out, have a fun time with a friend. But as soon as you return, then continue on with your purpose.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like you're talking about next week now.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, just to answer your question 100%. I think it's pointless to go through life. I mean, the thing is we have to interact with each other. We cannot isolate ourselves. That's really defeating the purpose of being here.
Yeah.
I mean, if we have the opportunity to spread joy or receive joy and all of that, dude, then that's something we definitely must do, in my opinion. We must have a balanced life. I say must, I mean, I suppose you shouldn't. Some guys, there's, schools for both sides. I think your age will also determine how you feel about that. But I mean, yeah, I've got a family, I've got a daughter and things, and I cannot just sit and work the whole time. I have to spend time with my family. And yeah, no, friends, what you don't use, you're gonna lose. So, and my friends I've known them for most of my life, to be honest, and I cannot imagine them not being there. So, yeah, that's something very important to me. And yeah, to answer your question 100%, we have to make time to recover. It's, if we just look at the sort of the necessity of it, if we leave the whole emotional side of it aside, it's, again, if we can compare it to exercise, you cannot just do your bicep curls the whole freaking day. You have to give your muscle time to rest and recover, because that is actually where it gets bigger. It doesn't get bigger in the repetition all the time. It is actually in the rest, and it's, we stimulate our minds and then we give it time to rest and just, consider all of these new thoughts and things, and from there it builds again, and then you just, carry on in that way. In my opinion, I think that's the best way to do it. Yes, no, I definitely have a few projects that I would like to get off the ground. It's like a development community, so that is something I've actually wanted to do for a few years, to be honest. It's and I think the thing is just you have to make sure you are in a place where you can add value to people, and I think I've built up enough experience where I can help people to a certain extent, just to build a positive community of people where we support each other and so forth. That is something that I would really like to do. But RYKEN is also a clothing brand. The symbol is supposed to, spread this whole personal, just a positive vibe. When you see a RYKEN shirt, it's sort of a reminder of, damn it, I can do this. And it's sort of, if you see a fellow RYKENer out there, it's like, good job or whatever.
You have the same mindset, I understand.
Exactly. It's someone that is precisely someone you can probably relate with
and connect with.
Exactly. It's just to spread some positivity, and I would say that's to keep building on that, spreading the symbol, and having a, like I say, just a overall positive impact as far as the brand can. That'll be brilliant. So,
But thank you, Peter. Thank you for joining us today. For the viewers seeing this on the Brothers channel, head over to RYKEN, subscribe there as well. Same mindset, same videos. It's finding yourself, finding your reason. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you once again for joining me today. It was really fun. I hope you all had some value in this journey as we talked and had our hearts out, clashes with our minds, and just had a fun time. Thank you all once again. It was lovely.
Thank you, Marco.
Thank you.